My name's Regina Lindsey, and I'm the CEO and President of the Greater Beaumont Chamber of Commerce. So we are the regional economic development entity in addition to being a traditional chamber of commerce. We hold the contract for economic development for the city of Beaumont, and then we host a regional economic development effort for the 3 counties and the professionals in the cities within those 3 counties. I think probably the greatest role that we play is just a facilitator. We all like to say that we don't really create jobs. I know that we use that as a metrics, but it's the business community that does. But we're the person that's in place and can facilitate the conversations, whether it's with the city or with a university or infrastructure development, what policy changes, whatever the need is. We make it very easy for a company to have one point of contact that can take care of all their needs. Well, I've always been attracted to positions and organizations that do something for the community that I live in. I was in the nonprofit sector before this and served in an elected capacity, which led me into economic development. And even though I just said we don't create jobs, we create the environment for creation of jobs. At the end of the day, you can look in the mirror and you know that you're really working for your community and for the people who live there and making a better life for themselves. You probably see that more in the workforce side of things, particularly if you're in a community where you have a lot of jobs like we do in Southeast Texas, a strong energy sector. You have the ability to help either the K through 12 or the university or the post-secondary create programs that can take someone who may be struggling, with day-to-day life, help them kind of overcome those challenges and get them into programs where they can be trained and develop some skill sets that are utilized not only for the companies that are there, but they get to go home and know that they've done something good for their families. I've kind of had a variety of people that have, and some of them were not economic development people, but they brought into my life the ability to develop skills that I didn't have that then served me later on. And probably the first example of that was a woman who's probably 40 years older than I was. She passed away 2 years ago, but she had the ability, when I was young in my career, I kind of thought that I could do anything, and if it was an idea and it was a good idea, let's just go for it, let's go do it. And she had the ability to show me how to think critically, and that's real important for an economic development professional, because you have a lot of opportunities that come your way, a lot of suggestions for programs, a lot of companies that come into town to take kind of taking a look at your community, and you really have to be able to think through that and decide what makes sense for your community, because just because a company can come to your community, it doesn't mean that it's a good fit. Then probably the mayor of the community that actually came to me and asked me to run for mayor when he was leaving, he also had a very strong passion for economic development. And at that point, I did agree to run, but I didn't really know too much about economic development. And since he's left the elected office, he has continued to stay involved in economic development. And I really give him a lot of credit for even introducing me to this entire realm of a world that I didn't know existed 10, 15 years ago. So I think one of the most interesting things that has happened in probably the last 5 years is that through economic development, communities of all sizes really have an opportunity to compete for foreign investment. When I started my career, you really only saw foreign investment going into communities that were large metropolitan areas that had a large international airport with nonstop service to foreign markets. But I've begun to see a paradigm shift that's very interesting. One of the communities in our region, 2,000 people population, and they have a German company that has just come in, and another community with about 4,000 people have a Japanese firm that's taking a look at them, and that's fantastic, because that really allows communities to realize the diversifying their economic base that a lot of communities have struggled with over the years. That's something everyone wants to accomplish, but it's not always easily accomplished. So having that ability to compete on the world stage has really opened up a whole new realm for communities that never dreamt of doing it before. The thing that I'm most thankful for is how I came into understanding and embracing how important business retention and expansion is to the industry. It's an area that's overlooked often because a lot of us have to answer to elected officials, and the elected officials really want to do the big announcements with a new company coming in to your community. But really and truly, the existing businesses are just absolutely critical to your economic health. Statistics show that 80% of the jobs come from them, but also those are the companies that have already been dedicated to your community and have been contributing to the community for some time. And I really stumbled into it. Our energy provider had purchased a license for a service, a business retention and expansion service, and the company, the utility was a big contributor, stakeholder for us, and I really only decided I was going to do the program because they asked me to do it. And the very first visit that I went on, it was a company that had been in that community for 50 years. And when we got to the question of, have you ever considered leaving this community? And he said, well, actually, we're thinking about it right now. And it was amazing because I had been the mayor of that community. I knew him very well. I really had the attitude that, well, if there was something wrong, he would come and tell me. And but that experience right there really opened my eyes to how important knowing what's going on with the businesses that are in your community already, that's pretty critical. Well, I think the obvious one is technology, and it really makes our lives a whole lot easier being able to do that research with the internet, with online subscriptions, that kind of thing. The social media platforms of getting our message out, even LinkedIn. You know, we were talking about mentors earlier, and just the ability to reach out, find people online who are your peers, who might be going through something, who have already gone through something you're experiencing, and being able to connect with them before ever meeting them in person is probably one of the biggest changes that I've seen. Wow, I would definitely not be where I am today without IEDC. And you know, they obviously have these great conferences and the education courses. But in all reality, I think the biggest return on my investment has been in my committee work. I'm currently the chair of the Public Policy Advisory Council. And that has opened my eyes to so many issues that are important to the industry as a whole. I feel like I probably have a pretty good handle on the policy that's affecting my individual communities, but just to understand, you know, what's taking place. I remember last year there was an issue that came up with small regional airports that was just not anywhere on my radar screen. But when you really dug into that issue, it would end up having a ripple effect, and I wouldn't have learned that, you know, had it not been for the work with PPAC. But that also gets you into a situation where you really meet a greater diversity of the membership and be able to build those relationships and lean on each other through your career. Oh, absolutely, and I think it goes back to you know, what I said about just being able to look in the mirror and know that the work that you're doing is good for the economy. Yes, it's bringing in revenue, but really, you know, it's the people who are living in your community are able to have jobs where they can take care of themselves, they can take care of their families, they can have a quality of life that is enjoyable and meaningful to them, and that's really more important than the numbers. So one of the things that I do when I'm interviewing people for the position, particularly if they are already in economic development, is I really ask them what led them to economic development, because for the people who are my age, my colleagues, my peers, we stumbled into it in some way or another. It's really interesting that now we're beginning to see universities have degreed programs for this, and so people are able to actually come to the job with an education already in place for it, and that's so critical because we cross so many different disciplines, and sometimes we're even dealing with social issues. If you're in a community where you have a lot of jobs that are available, but you have a lot of people who are unemployable because of either drug addiction or some other sort of thing going on in your lives, you will see economic development people get into social issues. But you do have to constantly be learning not only the technical side of it, but you also have industries that when I moved to Houston, I did not know that data centers was an industry, and that ended up being one of my big target industries. And so I had to go and learn a whole new language, because I am of that generation where I kind of know how to use technology a little bit, but I don't really understand how it works. And I had to get to where I could have intelligent conversations with people who eat, lived, and breathed, gigabytes and and all those kinds of things. So it is a job, and that's one of the things that I really like about the profession, is that every single day I'm learning something new. And as long as you are motivated to do that and you want to be a good economic developer, you will continue on, you'll be a lifelong learner as well. Well, I think because we do touch so many different disciplines, I think it's really important for a professional to find what they're passionate about. Some people come into this and they really enjoy doing the workforce development side of it. Some are real into the public policy side of things, and really just knowing what your niche is. As a practitioner, you have to be able to work in all of those realms, but you may be motivated by more by one set than another. And really just staying in tune with that and being able to dedicate the time that you need in order to feel that level of satisfaction goes a long way in kind of staving off any sort of burnout or anything like that.